Hi everybody, it's Amy from Making Space. Today I've got a activity for you which has been inspired by a few things. Firstly, our textile transformation project, which is all about reusing and upcycling your textiles rather than just throwing them away and kind of sending them to landfill. And two, if you've been watching the Great British Sewing Bee like I have, this week, their theme was reuse and recycle. So today's little activity is going to show you how to repair holes in jeans. It's something that we all get, and you don't always want to throw them away. So I'm going to show you a really lovely creative embroidery technique to get these little snowflakes. It's quite simple to do. There's a little bit of a method to it, which is what I've written down over here, and I will pop this all on the website with our kind of step-by-step guide as well. So I'm going to talk you through how we do it. So a few things you need. Obviously you need the item of clothing that you're going to fix. Now this works really well on denim or something quite structured. A stretch sort of jersey material is not really going to work. You want something that's quite stiff and firm as a material. You're going to need some embroidery thread, and I think it's quite nice to go for a contrasting colour. I've also got an embroidery hoop. I find it easier to stitch with one of these, so if you've got one, that's great. They're not very expensive, so I'll link them on the blog post as well. A pair of scissors, and then you'll just need the notes as well that I'll write out as well. So let's clear a bit of space. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to put the embroidery hoop over the material where the hole is. So I'm going to pop the smaller loop, which has got just a plain loop, on the inside of our jeans, and you can see the outline there. And then I've got this one, which you can see has got a little nut and bolt on the top. That's going to poke over the top like so, and you can see how that just stretched out that material and made it really taut. And then what we can do is then just fasten that back up. Okay, let's get that out in front of us. So depending on where the hole is and how big it is will depend on the size of the finished snowflake. This is kind of up in the kind of where your pants would be, so this is why I thought it'd be better to fill the hole in. So next thing you want to do is you want to thread your needle. Now you're going to need quite a wide-eyed needle because we're working with embroidery threads, but you want one that's sharp as well. So thread it on, which I've already done. Little tip to thread, make sure you wet the end just between your lips. That makes threading the needle a bit easier. And then when you get to the end, just tie a knot. And to do that, I like to wrap it around my finger, roll it off my finger, and then pull the knot down. Now, if you've got any tail ends on the bottom of the knot, just trim them off. What you don't want is long bits of loose thread on the back of your design, because they tend to get caught up in the design, and you can sort of pull them through. Okay, now we're ready to start. So to make it easy, I'm just going to undo the fly, just so I've got a bit easier access to where I'm stitching. Now the stitching, this is my demonstration. So we're going to be basing it on a star. Now, sorry about the noise outside. They're digging up my road. So I do apologise for any noise that you can hear. So you're going to do a 6-point star. And that's basically one triangle on top of an upside down triangle. And you can see I've numbered the points. So A, B, C, D, E and F. These are your stitches. So the over stitches are the stitches which you're going to see on the front of the material. And the under stitches are the ones that are going to happen at the back. So for the first stitch, you're going to go from A to E. So from here to this point. Then underneath the fabric, you're going to go from here up to here. So your needle will come back out at F, and then it will go from F to D. Under the material back to E, and then from E to C. Under the material to D, from D to B. Under the material to C, from C to A. Under the material to B, and then from B to F. Now this took me a couple of attempts just to get my head around it, so do feel free to practice on a bit of scrap fabric first. The more you do it, the easier it becomes as well. But I would recommend just keeping this to hand so you can just keep checking where you're going. Okay, so this is ready to start, and I'm going to kind of keep it in the same direction so I always know that my first point is at the top. Okay, so starting from the back of the material, we're going to come up and make sure this stays in focus, and we're going to go from A. So what I'm going to do is move that out so I can see where I'm going. From A to E. Okay, and then under the fabric we're going to go from E to F. So we're going to kind of come up about here. And let me just, there you go, that is in focus, I think. So you're kind of doing two sort of stitches at once because you're pulling that through and coming up from the underside as well. Okay, so then from F we're going to go to D, which is the bottom point of the star, and then the underside we're going to go from D and back to E. So when you're coming back up through the same point, just try and get it as close to that initial one as you did, and obviously we're going to make sure this is all focused around the hole that we're going to try and cover. So from E to C, so that goes straight across. So I'm trying not to wobble the camera too much. So yeah, from E to C, and then we're going to go back to point D, like so. Okay, from D to B, and that will come back to point C. Like I said, the more you do it, the easier it does become. You kind of get your head round kind of where you're going, like so. And you want to pull tight, but not so tight that you're going to ruche the material, if that makes sense. So from point C, we're going to go up to A, which is our top. And then underneath, we go from A to B. And then to finish our star, we're going to go from point B back to F. Like so. Okay, so now we've got our finished star, and don't worry if it's not perfectly even, you know, I don't think it matters. Snowflakes aren't perfectly even, these ones aren't, and they still look lovely. So we've now completed our triangle. Now what we need to do is start doing stitches. So we're going to kind of close the snowflake in from the outwards in. So each time you do a line, you're going to repeat this pattern that we did, the A to E, the F to D, so this little list here. But each time you're kind of coming inwards. So when we did A to E, this was our first stitch, our second one's going to come inside. So you're almost trying to make sure it gets smaller each time. And again, just keep this to hand because that's going to be your kind of, that's going to help you know where to go. Okay, so our next stitch is A to E. So I'm going to go as close as I can to the point, like so. So I'm going to come inside this line here. So I'm going to finish that one like so. Okay, and then where do we go next? From E to F, and then F to D. Now what you might need to do next is just always look ahead at where you're going next. So I know the next stitch is coming from this point to here, so I know I need to be on this side to make the stitch get smaller. And again, this is one of those things that the more you do, the easier it gets. Okay, so the next stitch will be E to C. So in which case I need to come up on this side of point E and come straight across and go that side to again make it smaller. So you can see how the stars are starting to get smaller as we go. Excuse me. Right, so from C to D, and that's going to go up to point B. So you come from there to there, up to that one. And then the next one is C to A, so then we're going to come down here. Go over like that. Okay, and then B to F is the next one, so that's going to come under here. And under there. Okay, so that is now 2 goes the whole way around. So you can see the snowflake's getting smaller and there's 2 stitches on every single line. And we just now repeat the process again. So back to A to E. And again, this time we're going to make it a tiny bit smaller than we did the last one. Like so. And then what's next? So then we go from E to F and F to D, right? So you can see the whole time I'm just checking, I'm looking back to my notes. You might have a brain where you can just do this without, in which case that's great. I clearly don't, I do need my notes there. But like I said, I think it's one of those things that the more you do, the more obvious it becomes. Okay, so that's E to C. Now what I'm going to do, you can see I've just hit the hole there, can you see? So what I'm going to do is, if you ever need to unstitch a stitch, take your needle off and then you can just pop it under the last stitch and pull it out. Super easy to do, it's probably quite a good trick for you to know how to do anyway. Okay, so I'm just rethreading my needle. Okay, so just because I'm just coming out a tiny bit further this time, just so I make sure I catch the outer side of the hole. There we go, so that was E to C. And then we're going up to D. So we're going to go this side. So you can see this time I'm not doing the 2 stitches in one, I only did that on the first go. So we're D to B. This is why you want to make sure the hole's right in the middle of your snowflake as well. D to B, and then we are C to A. And if you're not sure where to go, so I just slipped off there, if you just poke the needle up from underneath, you can kind of see where it's coming in as well, so use that as a guide. Now, depending on the size of your hole and snowflake will depend on how many rotations you have to do. Now, I think I can probably get 1 more on here because you can see there's still a little bit of a gap in the middle. So now it's almost like filling in the gaps. A to E. F to D, E to C. Now, if you can see what's happened here is I've kind of run out of thread. Let's just turn that over. So if that happens, you just need to just move your needle slightly further down your bit of embroidery thread, make this tail shorter. Right, what were we doing? We were doing E to C, weren't we? And then D to B. C to A. So now we're literally just doing the very middle bit. Don't worry if like you can see on mine, it's getting a little bit hard to stitch now. Okay, and I think I'll just do 1 last stitch from B to F just to close that gap in, and we're done. So that's our finished snowflake there that you can see. which looks really cute. And you can see a little cluster of 3. Obviously, if you've got a big hole, you could just do a really big snowflake and then just do a couple of decorative ones nearby. So to knot it off, turn it over, and you can see what it looks from the inside as well. It doesn't look too knotty or too bad. So just poke the needle underneath a couple of the stitches, pull it through until you've just got a little circle that's left. Then I just like to go through the circle a couple of times. Let's do it 3 times for good luck. Then pull this tight, and that knots it on the back thing, and then just cut off the tail. Flip it back to the right side. Let's undo our embroidery hoop. Pop it off. Take the inside one out. And there you can see our finished jeans, repaired hole. Looks really cute. And again, you know, you could put in your own decorative stitching in around this, just little dots, little kind of stars as well. But it's just a really simple technique that shows you how easy it is to repair a hole in a garment so you don't have to throw it away, especially if that hole's kind of somewhere where you don't want a hole, in the bum, around the crotch, somewhere like that as well. So that's the activity for today. I hope you have a go. If you've got a pair of jeans or a pair of trousers or a jacket that's kind of lurking in the back of the wardrobe that's got a hole in so you're not wearing it, give it a go. If you're not wearing it anyway, there's no harm in trying to repair it so you can actually wear it again. And I'll do a few more of these types of tutorials. The next one, I think I'm going to show you how to repair a seam as well. The seams quite often come undone, so I think that'll be my next tutorial as well. But I hope you enjoyed this decorative repair. I hope you have a go, and if you do, please send me some pictures of your creations because I'd love to see. Cool, I'll see you next week, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.